Hi friends, today we are discussing my weighted rating spreadsheet with all of you. Last year I created this spreadsheet for myself and shared it with all of you, and people seem to really like it. So I did do some updates to it this year, added a few new stats, changed some things around to make it work better for me this year, and I figured I would also let you guys have it. There will be a link to this down below. It is a link to the Google Drive link because the spreadsheet is on Google Sheets. You do have to make a copy of this. You cannot edit the one that I share down below. You have to make your own copy of it so that more people can have access to it. Otherwise, you'd be changing the master copy and everyone would be fighting over it. And that would not be fun. It'd be like the Hunger Games of spreadsheets. So if you don't know, the reason I created this spreadsheet was because I was using a rating system that wasn't working for me and I wanted to make my own. And I made a weighted rating system. So my rating system uses characters, plot, writing, world building / setting, and enjoyment, but enjoyment is weighted double the amount as the rest of them, which just means that my enjoyment matters a little bit more to my overall rating of a book. I do have a little rubric here on the first page, which is kind of like how I use the rating system, but you could literally just delete this if you wanted to. But first off, let's go over how to make a copy. As I said, you have to make a copy of this. You cannot edit the one I'm showing you. So what you're going to do is click File and then Make a Copy. You can name it whatever you want and just hit Make a Copy, and then it's yours and you can edit that one. You will not be able to have access to edit this one. So the first page is just a little rubric. This is not necessary to you at all. I just did it because I like to sometimes refer back to it when I am rating something and I'm a little bit stuck. But your main page is the books page. This year I went pastel rainbow, so the pages are a lot more colorful than they were last year. Last year I just think I did green and blue, but I went a little bit more rainbow this year. Feel free to change any colors, obviously. When you're writing down your books, your first column is your book name, then we were really far in, let's scroll back. When you're writing everything down, your first column is your book column. You can write down whatever name of the book, and then after that is the author. I just have test in, and then you have your month, which is just a click down, has all of the months. Then you have a genre. It's really easy. This little button here at the end, edit button, will take you to this, and if you want you can just add another item and hit done. So it's really easy to constantly be adding things with the drop down menus. I do a genre blanket, so I have a little blanket check mark here just so that I can check off if I've made the row in my genre blanket or not. You could easily delete this, although I recommend hiding things. You're just gonna right click on a Mac, that's Control plus the trackpad, and hit hide column if you don't want it. Simple. And then if you ever do want it back, these little two arrows, you just click that and that'll come right back. Then you have your pages, which is just a written form of how many pages it was. You can literally pick however many things you want. And then after that, there's the average length of small, medium, large, and chunky. I think I do small 1 to 300, medium 300 to 500, maybe 600, 600 to 800, and then 800 plus would be chunky for me. I just like to see in the variety whether I think I'm reading medium books or large books, you know? I like to see that stat at the end of the year. After that, we have the publication year. I broke this down into just backlist, last year, and new release. I didn't think, from my personal own reading taste or stat, knowing how many books I read in 1997 really mattered to my overall statistics at the end of the year. However, I did like to know how many of these 3 categories I was reading, because I do pick up a lot of the last year new releases in the next year, so that's why I added that as well. That's what my publication year is. You have the publisher, which again is just a written write down the publisher thingy. Then you have format read, which is audiobook, ebook, physical, or mixed media. Mixed media for me is what I call reading in multiple formats. So if I read the audiobook while reading along physically, that would be a mixed media book for me. The next thing is the acquired tab. Again, a drop-down menu with if it's an ARC, Audible, KU, Library, NetGalley. Even though NetGalley are ARCs, sometimes I get ARCs from like publishers that are physical copies sent to me. So that's the difference. Owned and Everand, now that it has its new name. Again, you can always add another thing by hitting this edit button. After that, we have our ratings. So this is a 10-point scale. So in characters, plot, writing, setting, and enjoyment, you just put a number out of 10 in all of these. And it will spit out a score for you that then correlates to a star rating. Again, your enjoyment is rated double. You will really only see it really affect things in times where, like, let's say you thought characters were strong, plot was strong, writing was strong, setting was strong, but you didn't enjoy the book. You're really gonna see that bring down that star rating and that overall score. But otherwise, if things are pretty just like even, you won't see a big change happening at all. You will see a little bit of arrows right here. If you open that, that's just more formula stuff to be able to convert from a 10-point score to the star rating. This has pretty much all been the same as last year. I think the biggest change is how I'm running the series this year. We have the series/standalone column. So you click series, standalone, companion, or I also added anthology this year for whatever it is. If it is a series, you then go to series placement and there's a series start, a sequel, or a series end. And this way you can really clearly track how many series you're starting, how many series you're finishing, and how many series that you're continuing just with this little thing. Again, if you wanted to get more detailed and have like second book, third book, fourth book, just hit that little edit button and add them. After that, if you are deciding, let's say I started the series but I didn't like it, I can check off if I'm deciding to DNF that series after that book and I'm no longer continuing. I thought that was really good to have. And there is also, let's say we read a sequel and this is the last published book out so far, you can hit caught up even though there's going to be more books, and that's a good stat as well. We have written by, which is woman, man, non-binary, unspecified, and multiple. And then I personally like to track representation overall. And you can change this to whatever you want as well. It's just a checkbox. And I also have new author, but you could literally just change the title of this if you really cared and wanted to be POC authors, if I could spell authors. And then check that off. I use representation pretty widely, and I just want to make sure that about 50% of my reads at least, if not more, have some sort of representation. That's how my reading is in terms of goals. I obviously like to have more than that, and I like to focus on multiple representation types, but I sometimes would get overwhelmed with spreadsheets having so many things to track. So just tracking representation as a whole on my spreadsheet works, and then like in my brain I can track the other smaller things. And I also have new author, so if it is a new author to you, you click it. Last year, about halfway through, decided to start tracking my cover colors, and so I added that as a column this year. I just thought it was fun to, at the end of the year, see what colors I gravitate towards, because I am a cover buyer very often, I'm a cover reader, as well as see the trends in the genres, because I am reading fantasy. So are there more blue books in fantasy than there are yellow books and things like that? So I just tracked that, and we have all these colors. Again, if I missed one, you can add one. It's super simple. The next thing we have is the book clubs. This is just a type in. If you read something for a book club, you can just type it in. You'll see my book clubs are in here right now. Super simple to use. Type that in. Again, I just wanted to see how many book clubs I was participating in and things like that. And then my last one, it could be a column that you might delete, is video project. If this was already on my TBR, I marked it as TBR. If I specifically write it for a video, I marked it as video. And then there is an other, because sometimes things come up that are other. I wanted to see how many books I was reading that I was interested in before YouTube and how many I was reading just for YouTube, essentially. And I figured some other people might be interested in that as well. And then we have a notes section, which I used to be like, what the heck do people do with their notes sections on here? Like, why do we have this? Last year, I started using the notes section as a trope section. So after I read a book, I would sit down and be like, oh, there's a school setting in this. And I'd type in school setting, an animal companion. Maybe the second book I read was Dark Academia. I put Dark Academia, but I'd also put school setting then, because it typically has both of those. And then when I wanted to make recommendation lists for everyone, I could Command F on a Mac and hit school setting. And it would bring me and pop up all the times I'd written school setting into the notes. Then I could go check what book it was, and I could make a recommendation list very easily just from using Command F and my notes. And I really enjoyed doing that. I wanted to tell you all that that's what I use my notes section for, and I think it's brilliant. So that is all the stats we're tracking on the book thing. So this is everything you have to like manually enter in. After that, we have the monthly stats page. This is the same as last year. Literally nothing changed on this besides the series breakdown, because I changed the way we were tracking series. So we just have each month across the top all the way to the end, which is then December. And then we have the total books read, the total pages read, average pages per day, average page count, most read genre, books with representation, authors read from before. We have the star rating breakdown, publication breakdown, format breakdown, series breakdown, acquired breakdown, and the genre breakdown. So you will be able to see all the genres you're reading. And that is my favorite stat to see, is my most read genre, very simply. I think that's fun. That is nice and simple. After that, this is brand new. We have the quarterly stats. Maria recommended this, and I thought this was such a good idea. I think a lot of us do look quarterly at our statistics. So we have the first quarter, the second quarter, the third quarter, and the fourth quarter. These have all the exact same stats that your monthly stats have. They're just added together. You will be able to see your most read genre for that quarter. You'll be able to see how many series you're still working on. All of this fun stuff, how many new releases you read, what your average star rating was in that quarter. I really think that that is a lot of fun to be able to see quarterly. Then we have our yearly stats. Again, nothing changed besides colors, really. So you have your books read, your genres. Let me add a few genres to this so that we can see a stat. I'm just gonna really quickly add a few things. So yeah, this is what things will start to look like. Again, we went pastel and colorful. Feel free to change things. You literally can just click on a thing and then pie slice, and you click the pie slice and you can change the color. It's really simple. And you have all these things. You have the publishers and the parent publishers, which we'll get to. This is the same as last year, but obviously if you're looking at this for the first time, I will explain it to you when we get to that. We'll have our star ratings, the series versus standalones. This is woman, man, non-binary stat. So these will all fill out as you fill them out. I obviously don't have things filled out, so you can't fully see, but they're just like graphs of everything. They look very pretty at the end of the year. We do have a more stats page. This is really where the parent publisher thing comes into it. So the first thing on your more stats page you can see is the genres and 5 stars. So over here, it's going to tell you how many 5 stars you gave in each genre. So right now I have a 5-star to classics, and then the bottom thing is going to be your most 5-star genre. So you can really clearly see what genres you were loving more than others, which I think is a lot of fun to see. You can also just see a brief graph of your star ratings down here as well. But this little column here, D, E, F, is your parent publisher thing. So in column H, you will see the different types of parent publishers in a number. And then as you fill things out, I have all of the publishers underneath a parent publisher written out here. So every time you type in Pyramid Books into books, let's go do that. Where's publisher? Let's type in Pyramid Books. And then we go to more stats. You can now see Pyramid Books is 1, which then means Penguin Random House is 1. Now, I wrote out a lot of these. There is a lot. There is 320 something, 330 something things here. That does not mean I didn't miss things. So I'm going to teach you really quickly how to add on if you want to. It is really easy. All you need to do is in column D, type in the publisher. Then in column F, type in whatever the parent publisher is. My biggest recommendation would go to the publisher, copy it, and then paste it in here. And then in E, when you click on E, there is this little dot that pulls up in the bottom right corner. You're just going to drag that down. And it automatically, there is a publisher I named Test earlier. So you can automatically see Test, and it'll also appear in this little thing. Then count Test as a Bloomsbury. So you can always add things on. Let me just delete that. If you scroll more to the right, I added a few other things. This year we have our author breakdown, so this will just, every time you write an author down, it kind of does look a little ugly, I'm sorry, but will automatically make a list of them as you go, and then these zeros are here to automatically just count. You could technically delete most of these zeros and then just whenever you need more, just drag this down. I just put them in there for people because then they don't have to worry about it. Then we also have the color breakdown. I just thought that would be fun. So you can see all the colors. There's also the color wheel over here. And there's also the book club breakdown as well. As I said, if you use more book clubs than this, all you would have to do, this will automatically, this side will fill out, column O will fill out by itself. But if you need to track the numbers more, you'll just drag that down again and it'll do it for you. that's pretty much all like the actual statistics. This year I did add 2 extra pages as well. We have the hauled page for people who want to keep track of the books they hauled. Again, you're really just filling things out. Again, you can always add things, whether you read it, unread it, or unhauled. I have a little video column. I'll check that off when it's been in a hauled video on my channel so that I know I'm hauling things properly on my channel, and you also have how you received it and little stats over here for it. And the last page is the DNF page, which I like to keep my DNF separate than my regular spreadsheet. I know a lot of spreadsheets just have a checkbox for if you DNF'd. That would be very easy to add. You could do that. Last year's does have that. However, I learned really quickly I don't want to include my DNFs in my list. I just like my spreadsheet to be a completed book list. So I track my DNFs elsewhere. You do still put the pages you read in here, so in your yearly stats it will still have any pages that you read. There is a total pages read this year does include your DNF pages, so you don't have to like worry about that. But I thought this would be really good, especially if at the end of the year you make any videos about how many books you DNF'd or anything. I always think that a little place to track them is good. I also like the fact that I can list things as a real DNF or a soft DNF, because I do soft DNF a lot of things. I can also see if maybe I was slumping a little bit in a month, because like let's say I DNF'd like 9 books in January and only 1 in July, like maybe I was slumping in January, you know? So maybe I might go back and be like, maybe this hard DNF should be a soft DNF. Maybe if I had read it in a different month I would have liked it, things like that. So I just think that this is a good new spreadsheet to have. I don't know what this is doing over here, so I'm just gonna delete that. Here we go. That is the entire weighted rating for 2024 spreadsheet. I hope you enjoy it. I think that I really like using my spreadsheet, but of course I made it for my own reading taste, so it works really well for me. You do use it, let me know. I think it's really fun to see it out in like the wilderness when people use it. So thank you so much everyone for always being here. Let me know if there is anything you're really missing. I don't track a YA or adult anymore, so I know that that is technically missing from my spreadsheet. It is a very easy thing to add. You can just add it as a type box really quickly, but I personally don't use it, so I don't put it on my spreadsheet because I don't really care how much YA to adult I'm reading anymore. I just felt like sometimes that put pressure on me to read more YA or to read more adult, and I don't do it. But I know that some of you do, so I'm sorry that it's missing that, but it probably will never have it. If you would like to leave me an emoji just to say we're here, leave me a book emoji. Let's keep it simple today. And then if you want to connect with me on other platforms, my Bookstagram, my Book Twitter, my Goodreads, and my Patreon, all linked in the description bar below. Patreon did get early access to this spreadsheet as they were like my beta testers to make sure everything was working. Again, make sure that you go to File, Make a Copy, or else you will not be able to use this. I will not be giving access to anyone. This is the copy that you just make a copy. Also, there will be this test column on it, so just hit Control on 2, like right click row 2 and hit delete row, and it'll be nice and blank for you and that won't mess anything up. Thank you so much for hanging out. I'm gonna end this now. See you next time.